Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, sorry about that. A little bit of feedback. Good morning, everyone. I'm calling the meeting to order at 9:31. Welcome, everybody. This is another first. The room is almost full compared to what we've been doing lately. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting of council by accessing the meeting, which is live streamed on our Middlesex Centre YouTube channel, or by contacting the municipal clerk to receive a registration link to join the meeting being held electronically. Members of the public may also attend the meeting in person at Coldstream Community Centre here at Ilderton Road. There are no additions to the agenda. I will look for disclosures of pecuniary interests. Councillor Arts. Thank you. And now we are going to move to delegations, presentations, and petitions. We rarely have the middle one. Today is the presentation day. Throughout 2022, members of our municipal management team and supervisor team completed a University of Waterloo course program for leaders. This is a 4-part learning series, and it focuses on the fundamentals of supervision and management, as well as the essentials of building teams that work. I'm pleased to offer congratulations on behalf of council to the following Middlesex Centre staff: Andrew Giesen, Eric Jowdry, Justin Fiddler, Kent Ferguson, Lise Masson, Wayne Nisbert, James Hudson, Jeremy Rees, Melissa Copel, Michael McDougall, Ryan Darling, Ryan Johnson, Alex Jones, and Mark Renison. I will call for a brief 2-minute recess so that we may take a photo and present a certificate to those individuals who are in attendance at today's meeting. Moving on to the adoption of the minutes, we have a motion before us that the minutes of the council meeting held on August 3rd, 2022 be adopted as printed. I'm looking for a mover, please, and second. Councillor Shipley, Councillor Arts. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried then. We have a number of items on the consent agenda. These are usually received as one motion, but council members may request that one or more items be removed for further action or discussion. Is there anything anyone wants to speak to? Councillor Heffernan?
This is just a question on item 6.7, the council meeting schedule. Isn't there usually one less meeting in either July or August? And I noticed it's a full agenda.
Through the chair, thank you for that question. We note this year being a typical good example that additional meeting in August may be necessary in future years. So you're quite correct. In past years, there's been one meeting in August. As we see today before us, we have a very full agenda, and that's a signal to us that that second meeting will be needed in August for future years. Thank you.
And Councillor Cates.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I just want to point out that 6.3, the Community Services Advisory, at least on my screen, it's blank. Well, it's a template, not no minutes. You saw that too?
Through the chair, what we can do in that case is remove that item from the consent agenda for this meeting, and we'll bring that forward to the September 21st meeting in its complete form. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there anything else on this agenda? I don't see any hands. We do have a motion before us that, oops, pardon me. I was looking at the item here. That report number CAO 20, nope, sorry. The consent item 6.1 through 6.11 listed on the September 7th agenda be adopted as recommended, with the exception of item 6.3, which is that relating to the Community Services Advisory Committee. Do I have a mover, please? And a second. Councillor Cates and Councillor Heffernan. Is there anyone? Oh, thank you. I see that. I'll get you next time. I saw your hand way too late, Brad. Thank you. That is carried then. Thank you, everyone. Now we can move to staff reports. There we go, all of those consents. The first item up is the cost of living adjustment, and our Chief Administrator Officer, Michael DeLulo, is in attendance to provide a review of the report.
Great. Thank you, Mayor DeVete. To members of council, item 7.1 is on the agenda today to look at putting a budget placeholder with respect to our cost of living adjustment increase for 2023, which would take effect in January. Before you on the staff report is some comparable data to help us come to the conclusion of the 2.5% number that's being proposed. To be fair and equitable with respect to our staff and the tax base, what we're proposing is 2.5%, which aligns with the Ontario government recommendation when it comes to the rent increase. Obviously, the CPI is not a comparable figure that we usually fall back on. And so the report that's a recommendation, the 2.5 that we put in place for January 1st. The other point to note is that for next year, it has been 5 years since we've done a rate review. And so part of this report also notes that we will undertake such for next year so that our salary grid for all positions is aligned as we look for a new term. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll look to council for questions. Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, to CEO, I agree with this. I think with the cost of everything, rents are higher, price of gas is higher, the cost of food is higher. I think in order to maintain staff and keep staff, we have to be proactive and react and give them a salary raise that reflects what the cost of living and everything else is going on. So I do support this.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I don't see any hands. We do have a motion before us that report CAO 25/2022 regarding the cost of living adjustment for the coming year 2023 be received, and that the cost of living adjustment of 2.5% receives pre-budget approval for 2023 and it will be applied to employee wages effective January 1 for the calendar year. Is there a mover, please? And second, Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any hands. That is carried. Moving to 7.2, our Director of Corporate Services, Tiffany Farrell, is going to provide an overview of staff review on budget survey results.
So,
Floor is yours, Tiffany.
So through you, Mayor DeVete, I am pleased to present the budget survey results for the 2023 budget survey that was out this summer. And like last year, we had almost 91% of our respondents thought the services they received were either fair, good, or excellent, which was a little bit above last year, which is excellent to hear from the community. These surveys are an important way for us to hear everybody's priorities and what they're looking for in a 2023 budget. And we had 345 responses, which was a significant improvement over last year when we only had 207. So I won't go through the details of the budget survey results. So everything is posted here. It'll be posted online, as well as we will be addressing any of the comments that we received. And that document will be posted on the line after, before the end of this month, I would say. So as you're going through it, one of the things that we did want to ask people if they have used any of the services that we were speaking about, and the majority have, which is great to see, as it is understanding the fact that the roads that you drive on, the water that you use, that is a service that you're using in the municipality, and many of our residents use these every single day. And overall, when we looked at the importance of different services they're providing, as well as if you're satisfied, if you look at the gap analysis, you'll notice that everything's kind of all in a little cluster in the top right-hand corner, which means important and satisfied. We do zoom in on that that little section later on in the presentation as well. And you'll notice that there's a few little outliners, but no matter what, it's still in that important and satisfied section. And just coming to a close on this is the single biggest challenge. So we did ask our residents what they believe the single biggest challenge was, and there was a variety of answers, and these are very typical to what we've seen in previous years. Growth, managing that growth as a municipality continues to grow, the traffic, and we have some of those campaigns like Vision Zero that's really educating our public on some traffic challenges, and we have taxes and spending, which is always top of mind for many of our residents, and obviously the water bills. Water rates is something of a topic every time we do talk about budget. We'll ensure that more information is put out there as we continue through this process this fall. At this point, I'll open up to council to see if anyone has any questions for me.
Thank you for that presentation, Tiffany. Council, questions, clarifications? Councillor Scott, I'll start with you, and I see your hand, Councillor Huffman.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning, everyone. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Tiffany. Great job on the survey. I went through it. I looked at it myself and did the survey. It's always, and I'm sure for you too, it's always disheartening that we couldn't get a few more people, because we got 345, which is an improvement. But what's the eligible amount of people? Like, I guess our population of 17,000?
Normally, yes, it could be the entire population, but we would look at anyone like as an adult, most likely above the age of 18. So you're kind of looking at half that at least. We could run the numbers, but we do have a good selection across the different wards and different areas, whether it's rural or urban, what they believe they live in. That's not an exact science as well. But yes, obviously more would be better, and we will continue to promote it each year. And at the end of the presentation, my information is always provided as well. If people didn't get a chance to complete the survey, to give us that information. And obviously all of the members of council, the public always will go to you first. So if you receive any information, please send that forward. We like to address as many concerns and comments as possible. And every idea is a good idea.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to encourage too, is if people can help us out with that, because the more information they give us, the better decisions we can make. But anyway, I just wanted to say it was a great job, easy to do. So hopefully people can, help us out in the future and be more engaged with it, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Scott. I'll look at Councillor Huffman.
I just wanted to sort of emphasize too that it's the safety issues that were most important, so the police and fire services. And the other thing that I found interesting, which Tiffany already alluded to, was the drinking water was less satisfied than some of the other services. And I believe it's the price as well, because drinking water is pretty important. So, and we always have it. So I think it was the price.
Is there anyone else? Okay, I don't see any hands. The motion before us is that report CPS 39 2022 outlining the budget survey results be received for information. Councillor Scott, Thank you. And Councillor Heffernan, is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Next, I'll look to our clerk. James is here to provide an overview on the Conservation Authority Board appointment process.
Through the chair, thank you. The purpose of this report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the appointment process that's in place for Conservation Authority Board representatives, and to recommend that the municipality proceed with appointing municipal councillors to our 5 area Conservation Authority boards following the municipal election, which is upcoming. So to provide some background context, in 2019, the Government of Ontario introduced Bill 108. That's a bill entitled More Homes, More Choices Act. Bill 108 is known as an omnibus bill, meaning that it proposed to amend or alter several different pieces of legislation. One of those pieces of legislation is the Conservation Authorities Act. Amongst a number of changes, one of those core changes was the introduction of revised regulations around how the board of directors for a given conservation authority is comprised. So previously we were seeing public representatives sit on those boards, and with this new legislation, it is required that members of council sit on the board unless an exemption is sought through the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks. So the report outlines the options that are available to council when making this decision. And there are 2 options. The first option being to comply with the new legislative changes and accordingly appoint members of council to represent our Conservation Authority boards. The second option is to seek that exemption that I spoke to previously. In staff's opinion, we are recommending that we do proceed to promote councillors to the 5 area Conservation Authority boards, and there's a few reasons for that. One of them is the compliance with the legislation. The legislation is intended to have council sit on those boards. The reason behind that intent is because it provides connectivity between what's happening at the Conservation Authority boards and what's happening at municipal council. So we have that messaging system that's in place and that communication that flows up. That's the reason that staff's recommended what they have today. I'll pause at this point, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to field those.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. I'll look to councillors then. Questions, comments? I don't see any hands. Pardon me, sorry, a frog in my throat. I echo your comments, comments that are made in the report from the clerk. I think it's important that council takes part in these meetings, and that there's a direct conduit then to council in terms of getting an understanding, a better comprehension of some budget items and so forth. Obviously, we know it's government's role, but that information that flows through to everyone in this building is important. They're not all the same. Sorry, I've got here. Yeah, the frog. It's not Monday morning, but I've got it. Anyways, I apologize for that. Yeah, I think it's a really good move, and I think we're a bit different. We have 5 conservation authorities on our roster, and I think that'll give everyone a chance to attend meetings and bring back information. So it's but I think it's a really good exercise, and our residents too use those facilities, and it's a direct connection. So, anyways, I have a motion before us that report CLK 09/2022 regarding the Conservation Authority Board appointment process be received, and that the composition of the board membership for area conservation authorities be confirmed as council representatives, and further that no exception for board membership to select less than 70% of its appointees to an authority from among members of council be submitted to the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks at this time. Is there a mover, please, and a second? Deputy Mayor Brennan, Councillor Case. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any hands. That is carried. And the next presentation is also from our clerk. James, the floor is yours about striking for other positions.
Thank you, and through the chair. The purpose of this report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the proposed striking committee, whose purpose will be to review applications for public and council appointments to our various local boards and committees, as well as to make recommendations to council regarding these appointments. So to back things up a little bit, historically, the municipality has a number of appointed public and or council representatives to local committees. Some examples of these are the Community Services Advisory Committee, the Youth Advisory Committee, as well as our Cemetery Committee, amongst a number of others, as well as the conservation authorities I spoke to a moment ago. So what is the concept of a striking committee? What that really means is a selection committee. And it's common in the municipal sector. Many Ontario municipalities manage appointments to a number of local boards and committees. And it's important that you have in place a number of people who can work together to make those selections. So historically, the municipality has brought a report forward to the youth council following an election, making a recommendation of who those appointments should be. That report will still occur in the same way and with the same time this upcoming December. The difference with having a striking committee in place is that there's a defined selection committee and process should you have multiple applicants for a given position. So this is really just a regulatory item that we're putting in place to help build out and fill out that structure which already exists here. If there's any questions from council, I'd be happy to field those now.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or concerns? I don't see any before, so the recommendation is that report CLK number 10, 2022 regarding the establishment of striking committee be received and that the terms of reference attached as Appendix A1 be approved. And further that myself, Deputy Mayor Brennan, and Councillor Arts be appointed to the striking committee for the remainder of the current term of council, as well as the upcoming 2022-2026 term of council. Do I have a mover, please? And second, Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Shipley. Anyone opposed? I don't see any hands. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item up is number 7.5. It's an application for a plan of subdivision, and it's filed by Mr. Doug Stanley from Stanley Consulting on behalf of Grantham Development's Inc. and our planner, Marian Cabral, who's in attendance to provide an overview of the report. Go ahead, Marian, whenever you're ready.
The purpose of our report is to provide a recommendation to council about the plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and rezoning applications for the lands known as 9904 Oxbow Drive for the development also known as Runway Estate or Grantham Developments. So this property is approximately 51 acres in area and located on the north side of Oxbow Drive and west side of Kamoka Road. It is north and west of the existing built-up area of Kamoka and is bound by the Canadian Pacific Railway on the north, active agricultural lands to the west, as well as the Canadian National Railway and industrial lands to the south, and of course, residential uses to the east. The land is currently designated residential and does have an aggregate overlay for a majority of the property. It does contain some hazard lands in the Middlesex Center official plan. Additionally, the northeast corner of the property along Kamoka Road falls within the community gateway for Kamoka. This property is also zoned existing use and has a small section that is zoned for urban residential uses along Oxbow Drive. So these applications were initially received by the municipality and by the county in 2019. They were first presented to council in July of 2019 at a public meeting. Staff received a considerable amount of comments from the public, from agencies, and from council, and these were all shared with the applicant at that time. In August of 2020, the applicant resubmitted their applications, and this was presented to council at the December 2020 meeting. So the revisions of the plan of subdivision are shown on the screen. So this includes 166 lots proposed for single detached dwellings, 5 medium density blocks for future development. A majority of these blocks, I believe 4 out of the 5 are for townhouse type of development, whereas one of the blocks is for an apartment building. There's one new block that was introduced for a parkette. And of course, there are several stormwater management ponds pond, which is one pond, and channels along the perimeter of the property to divert any water from the property. As well, what's shown on the plan includes Street A, which connects Kamoko Road to the lands to the west for any future development if that were to occur. There's also Street C that would connect to Oxbow Drive, and then internal streets including B, D, and E that will connect the rest of the roadways. The revised official plan amendment proposes to remove the aggregate overlay from the lands, to redesignate the Parquet block to Parks and Recreation, to redesignate the 5 blocks that are identified in the plan to a medium density residential designation, and to create a special policy area for the entirety of the lands that would allow for garages to protrude closer to the front lot line than the habitable portion of the dwelling. In addition, the revised zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the land from existing use to 9 different zones. So that includes the Parks and Recreation zone, a site-specific open space zone for the stormwater management channels and ponds, an urban residential zone for the single detached lots, and several urban residential third density zones, again, for the medium density blocks. So notice of the application in public meeting were circulated ahead to area residents and agencies, again, ahead of the July and the December meetings, July 2019 and December 2020 meetings. Staff did receive a number of comments related to both of those public meetings, and those were considered by staff when making this recommendation. Additionally, staff received comments from Upper Thames Region Conservation Authority and from several other agencies, including Enbridge Gas, the Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc, and Canada Post, which have been incorporated into conditions of draft approval. So staff evaluated the requested official plan amendment and are generally in support of the application, as it is in line with the goals for the official plan and direction to provide a variety of housing forms in serviced areas. However, there's one provision that was requested that staff are not in support of, and that was to allow for garages to protrude closer to the front, closer to the front lot line compared to the front wall of the dwelling area. This would be contrary to the urban design guidelines and direction to minimize the appearance of vehicles within new subdivision plans. So staff have revised the official plan amendment to remove that provision and recommend adoption of the amendment as advised. Staff reviewed the requested zoning bylaw amendment in each of the requested zones, and we did sit down with the proponent to go over the zones to ensure that development could be supported and was feasible based on some of the provisions that were provided. Staff are generally in support of the zones to meet the intent of the residential and medium density residential designations, as well as the open space areas. However, staff did make a few revisions to the zones, primarily related to setbacks and amenity space area, and to provide clarity within the permitted uses that were on the site. Additionally, staff, in consultation with the proponent, did create a new site-specific UR3 zone for one of the medium density blocks, as it did not require a vibration assessment to be completed. However, it's very similar to one of the other UR3 zones that were proposed. And finally, as a result of our review between staff and the proponent, we recommend approval of the zoning bylaw amendment application as it was revised to rezone the lands to 2 new UR1 zones, 5 new UR3 zones, and 1 new open space zone, and the Parks and Recreation zone. With regard to the plan of subdivision application, again, staff are generally in support of the plan of subdivision that was submitted in 2020, and that is shown on your screen today. So this plan is supportive of identifying Street A as a corridor. Specifically, the right-of-way width is increased compared to the typical municipal standard of 20 meters, and the amount of lots that front onto Street A are limited. Street A and Street E are also both laid out in such a way that if lands were to develop to the west, it would connect to that land. The 5 medium density blocks are proposed in size appropriately to accommodate townhouses, and there's 1 to accommodate an apartment building. And the plan also identifies a parkette in the center of the subdivision, as well as the stormwater management plan that lines the perimeter of the development along the east and the south. So staff have considered 47 draft plan conditions, and this is considerably more than we would for our standard plan of subdivision, but there are a lot of constraints on the site. These draft plan of subdivisions, draft plan conditions are attached to the staff report as attachment 10. The conditions address their standard development requirements for subdivisions, which include, but are definitely not limited to, the completion of a stormwater management plan and traffic study, as well as the requirements from the two railways. There are several warning clauses for future landowners or tenants related to noise and vibration due to proximity to the railways and the road, as well as existing aggregate extraction operations within the area. The draft plan conditions also address traffic calming measures to be included throughout the subdivision and the provision of sidewalks throughout the subdivision. So as a result of our review, staff considered the comments received from the public, from agencies and stakeholders, and are satisfied that the applications can be supported and are consistent with the PPS and local official plan. As such, staff recommend adoption of the official plan amendment as revised and to be forwarded to the county for approval. Staff also recommend approval of the zoning bylaw amendment as amended, and for Middlesex Center to recommend draft plan approval of the plan of subdivision subject to the draft plan attached to the staff report. And thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you for that report. We have Mr. Douglas Stanlake in attendance on behalf of Stanlake Consulting, and he will be commenting on the application. He is also joined by Joe Hassan, and Lucas Grabowski of AGM is available for questions. Good morning, gentlemen. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How's that? Okay. Let me first congratulate Madam Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Ertz for acclamation to be given the opportunity to serve the residents of Middlesex Center in another 4-year term on council. So congratulations. I hope you have a successful and progressive 4-year term in the next years ahead. But the subdivision itself, from the very beginning, I think I just wanted to set the parameters that from pre-consultation that we had with the community to pre-consultation with the city and with the municipal staff, we did everything that we could to design a subdivision and set the parameters of the zoning bylaw that met the conditions of the official plan and the other documents related to development of property. The overall design of the subdivision has not changed significantly from our very first community information. I think that Madam Mayor was even in attendance at that one, as I recall. And we have received very little in the way of comments on layout or components within the subdivision itself. That has resulted in a review. As those comments that we did receive, we did look at other options of laying out the subdivision. However, the proximity of two rail lines, existing residential uses, the topography of the property, and the servicing issues on the site, we ended up with a situation where we are quite confident that it is a good layout and represents a good planning for the municipality. So after a little over 3 years of working with the process back and forth with staff, also working through very extended timelines because of the pandemic, we're here at this meeting this morning, and Brentham has concluded that in order to be able to move this application forward, we need your support as council to accept the recommendations of the planning staff to adopt the official plan amendment, forward it on to the county for approval, pass the zoning bylaw, which is your purview, and then recommend to the approval authority draft plan of subdivision and also the conditions that go with it. There is one comment that I would like to make on the planning report and on the agenda, and I'm not sure which section or page numbers that you refer to as you're looking at it. I found that there were three. On page 71 of the PDF, or page 159, or page 28 of 30 on the planning report itself. The agenda on clause G on that page deals with phasing. Now, frequently in plans of subdivision of this size, phasing can be an issue. I just make a clarification point of what Marion has put in the report. It is the intention of Brenton to phase this subdivision, at least in 2 phases. That's required simply because of the configuration of servicing and timing of servicing. The front portion, if I could call it that, that is the area that faces primarily Kamoka, and then a little bit of a portion onto Oxbow. Will like to be the first phase in order to connect up these to connect up the servicing, and then goes into the stormwater management pond. That pond will have to collect those from the entire subdivision. Marion has prepared a very detailed report, and her comments this morning, there's no need for me to go over any of the issues that have not already been covered. Other than to suggest that, just give you some highlights that we would have. It is 166 lot draft plan subdivision that contains 166 single family lots, almost 100 medium density units in 5 multifamily blocks. So that gives a pretty close 60-40 split for residential units within the subdivision that is found in a significant policy in LP. So those principles that we've tried to follow through throughout our discussions with staff and the agencies have followed through. Size and the location of Parquet, we run that by your planning staff in your parks area, and they're content with the size and location and the area to service the subdivision. The zoning bylaw, we tried to put forward a recommendation or a request, I should say, about changing some design parameters. Found that it was no support from staff at all, or just to allow for a variation in frontage and facades of buildings. So we have withdrawn that proposal, and perhaps we are not going to be able to get the extent of variation in design, but we will work with the conditions that have been established to support the elimination of that request. As a result, Council, we would request that you accept the recommendation of planning staff and take the necessary actions to implement the recommendations that we put forward. With that, I have any questions, be happy to try and answer those questions. And if there are any engineering or servicing issues, I would pass them over and defer to Lucas, who is online.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stanley. We do have a resident who is in attendance to comment on the application, and then we'll start with council. Good morning, Jane. This is Ina here. If you are ready, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Madam Mayor, members of council, Mr. Stanley, Mr. Hassan, Lucas, I forgot your last name, excuse me, staff, members of the public. My name's Jane Campbell. I live at 22924 Kamoka Road on the farm just to the north of the proposed subdivision. As I received notification that this item would be on the agenda roughly 2 working business days before the meeting, I shall restrict mostly my comments to Ms. Cabral's report. I spoke with Mr. Robert Hubert, president of the Thames River Anglers Association yesterday. He was not informed of this item being on the agenda. I also spoke with Mr. Tony Jackson, Department of Fisheries yesterday. I am asking if a DFO aquatic species evaluation was completed. Further, in that light, were members of the public who requested to be kept informed about this application at the public meeting in July of 2019. Were they notified of today's meeting? Was the UTRCA notified of today's meeting? I have spoken at both public meetings previously held in regard to this subdivision, expressing my opposition. At the official plan review meeting last November, Mr. Alexander indicated that there was an urban land surplus of 27 gross hectares that had been identified for Kamoka Kilworth. This original 100-acre farm was split to accommodate the settlement boundary expansion. This unnecessary sprawl is an example of why we are losing 319 acres of farmland every day. Driscoll of California is searching for contract growers in Ontario and Quebec currently. As food security becomes increasingly a concern, decisions such as these are questionable. Addressing Ms. Cabral's report, page 2, background. I do not understand why the exact location of the stormwater management pond has not yet been determined. Ms. Cabral notes that the public meeting was held in 2019. I would like to remind council and members of the public that of the 17 members of the public who spoke that evening, only one, Sue Cates, was in favor. On page 3, bullet 3, of the 51.3 acres, it is noted that one block is to be a parquet of 0.49 acres. That represents less than 1% of the total property area. I thought that developers were to provide 5% of the land for parkland. On page 4, provincial policy statement. It is stated that the PPS promotes healthy, livable, and safe communities and protects the environment, public health, and safety. This plan of subdivision does not meet these goals. It threatens Kamoka Creek. Residents complain about the Oxbow Drive Kamoka Road intersection as being unsafe. It will only get worse. As far as the proposed Street A Kamoka Road Union Ave intersection, it will be a challenge given the proximity of the CPR. Kamoka Road as the proposed Street A are declared collector roads. That means there are to be sidewalks on both sides of the road. Is there enough room for sidewalks at this proposed intersection? I saw no mention of odors from the existing properties that may affect health. The Strathroy Caradoc gravel pit can cause odors with a south wind. Kamoka poultry can cause odors with a north wind. You should have been here this morning on our farm. We experience both. Recently, there have been posts on the Kilworth Kamoka Facebook site complaining about odors from master feeds, an integral part of our rural community since 1952. I remember a council member commenting to the effect that whoever was there first was not in the wrong. Purchasers should be made aware of these potential odors. Air conditioners are recommended throughout the subdivision to avoid hearing the railway noise. Specific building construction has to be utilized to prevent train vibration. I commented on specific percentages of affected lots in 2019. I ask you, is this a healthy, livable environment? Page 7, third paragraph. Hazard lands and community gateway are mentioned. At the bottom of page 3, it's indicated that additional study may be required regarding the hazard lands. Hazard lands shouldn't be built on. This was done on the north side of Union Ave and problems exist. At the bottom of page 3, it says, there will be no impact on flooding, slope stability, upstream or downstream properties, aggravation of existing natural hazards or natural features or function. I wish I could believe this. However, given our experience with the Union Ave drainage works, I do not think it will happen. Page 9, paragraph 3, it's noted that special landscape treatments will be part of community gateway. It would be nice to report in this draft what these might be so that they might actually occur. The mandate for conservation authorities in Ontario is as follows. Conservation authorities is to undertake the watershed-based programs to protect people and property from flooding and other natural hazards and to conserve natural resources for economic, social, and environmental benefits. On page 18, Ms. Skipperell reports that Upper Thames has not provided new comments related to the revised plan. Did they provide any comments on the August 17th, 2020 revised functional servicing report? I did not see an invoice for reviewing such. Ms. Creighton, the land use planner with Upper Thames, is on holiday, so I could not speak to her concerning her report. Page 18, under agency comments. It may be prudent to wait for the completion of Mr. Marsman's building comments before recommending adoption of this draft. He's been with the township a long time, and I respect his opinion. Similarly, given concerns regarding stormwater management and drainage, it might be wise to wait for the municipality's public works and engineering department's comments before recommending adoption of this draft. On page 20, under Upper Thames comments from April 2019, number 5, it says, Upper Thames does not support the proposal to construct a swale along the east and south property boundaries, as this has the potential to shift flooding and/or erosion hazards onto the property owned by others, including existing residential lots and municipal road allowances. I feel sorry for the owners of the houses along Kamoka Road, just north of Oxbow. It appears that the Conservation Authority's advice was disregarded. Further, on page 20, number 7, is stated that without regular maintenance, the proposed bypass channel may pose a flooding risk in the future. It may cause flooding for both existing and proposed dwellings on Kamoka Road and Oxbow Drive. It's my understanding that there's no schedule for regular drainage maintenance. It is complaint driven. This may be a concern. Page 20, number 10, raises concerns of backwater effect, which may cause local flooding if the time to peak of the two proposed inlets are the same. I'm very concerned that there will be backwater effect. How is this going to be prevented? I have absolutely no faith in the engineer's opinions on this issue. At this point, I would like to ask if is this the appropriate time to appeal the design of the drainage works? As well, I remember Mr. Harmon, who has died in July 2019, what would happen to the Frank drain? In that light, I would like to know when the abandonment of the Frank drain can be requested so that I'm not assessed on it. A written response from staff to these two questions would be appreciated. Page 22, warning clause for the gravel pit. Perhaps it should be conveyed that odors may come from the pit with a south wind. Page 24F, it is indicated that stormwater can be managed on site. Approximately 6 hectares on-site runoff goes into the open swale. This is contradictory. Page 26B, it states that staff are satisfied that outstanding measures such as controlling stormwater management can be addressed prior to development. I am not satisfied given the history of drainage problems in the Kamoka Station subdivision on the east side of Kamoka Road. Municipal correspondence sent to us indicating that no flooding would occur did not prevent flooding. Upper Thames attachment states upstream lots have experienced repeated and documented flooding and is concerned that they may not have sufficient outlet for drainage through Renwick. Our 3 properties are assessed for these decisions. It says these matters will need full support of the municipality, the county, and Upper Thames. As noted earlier, it doesn't appear as if the advice given by Upper Thames has been followed with respect to the swale. Page 28F is block 169 in the regulated area. 28I, with respect to the parquet, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get developed and instead the municipality accepts cash in lieu. For the Kamoka Station subdivision on the east side of the road, the municipality took $13,000 in cash in lieu of conveyance of 5% of the land for park. This would be very disappointing as this subdivision is a fair walk to Kamoka Park. To walk to the wellness center, it can be very dangerous as there are no sidewalks or intermittent sidewalks on Delaware, Tunks Line, Railway, and the CN overpass on Queen restricts both pedestrian and vehicular traffic, a definite safety concern. Page 30, bullet 4. It's noted earlier, this is where potential odors from nearby land uses could be addressed. Page 30, bullet 5 states municipality assumes no responsibility for noise issues which may arise from the existing increased traffic from railway corridors, Kamoka Road or Oxbow Drive, and that the municipality will not be constructing any form of noise mitigation. It's a guaranteed traffic and noise will both increase on Kamoka Road. This clause reflects the level of concern that the municipality has for existing residents and businesses. It appears that they do not care at all. In that regard, I cannot see where any of the public comments which were presented at the 2 public meetings were acted on. A process has been followed and a box has been checked. With 47 draft plan conditions outstanding and crucial agency and municipal reports not completed, it is presumptive to recommend adoption of this plan. It should not be forwarded to the County of Middlesex for approval, nor should the zoning bylaw be approved. Sorry I rushed. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. And now it is council's turn. I look to members of council for questions, clarifications, comments.
Through your Madam Mayor to James, I have a correction. I want to declare a conflict of interest on our old, it was 7.6, now it's 7.5.
Thank you for clarifying, and we have noted your declaration of pecuniary interest on this particular item. So that is all in order. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Cates, do you want to start? We have only Jane noted. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Try to get this in an orderly fashion. Thank you for all your comments, Jane. I just want to highlight a couple of things. So when Jane talked about the 17 people in attendance at that meeting back then, I was not on council at that time. And yes, I talked in favor of it. I brought forward the need in the community for this kind of housing, and this covers a multitude of different kinds of housings. And I just want to again give a reminder that like everywhere I go in the community, all the time people are saying to me, where can we go? We've lived here all our lives and we can't cut our grass anymore. Where can we go? My daughter, my son, whatever, was raised in this community and they want to stay here. I'd like my parents to move here so they can be closer to their grandparents. Like it's almost a daily occurrence for me as councillor of Kamoka Kilworth. And so, there's a need there. So yes, I talked in favor of that. And today, in reading all these, multiple pages of everything, I think that, of those 17 people that spoke, a good number of them were speaking about the Union Ave drain, not specifically this development, I think. And I think that the Union Ave drain, to my knowledge, has been all the clean out, et cetera, has happened. But I also read in all of these reports here, which I had thought from the start, but I'm not the engineer, that this Renwick development could somehow do some things to tie into helping that Union Ave drain work even better. And I did read something about that. So I wanted to point that out as well. I think that so far in the community, other than Jane is in my ward, which I received her notes the first thing early this morning, I've not had input about this development. As some other ones I get a lot of input. I've not had any other input about this. And I think that, as Marion noted, there's 47 conditions on there. And, there's a lot of engineering and all of those expert reports and et cetera to happen. And I think that for me, I need to have faith in that process, that through the engineers and experts, and I'm not. And so I'm going to have faith in that system. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Cates. Is there anyone else? Councillor Heffernan?
To Mayor DeVee, to either Marion or to, okay, sure. So just a couple of clarification. So did we get a Upper Thames Valley clearance from regarding the fish and all the drainage and all that, Marion?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Heffernan. Sorry, was that clarification if we received a clearance related to the drain or?
Well, yeah, just that they're in like they don't have any concerns with the trout upstream and the drainage. And
Yeah, so the municipality has not received clearance related to that and related to the stormwater management. However, that is a draft plan condition to require their review and approval of any of the works that would be happening on site related to the movement of water. However, we have not addressed the comment about fisheries. I believe that's outside of their review and outside of their approval, but we have not received an approval to the state for those.
the other thing I was concerned with, did we get any reports from Thames Valley with regard to setting aside land or projections of how many hundreds of students may come from it?
To answer this question, it's we did look at all the lands within Coke and Kilworth, as well as throughout the municipality. And related to the subdivision, we have not had any requests from the school boards to set aside any land for any future schools, or have they noted any requirements for expansions to existing schools? And I know that there is discussion, a lot of discussion about what's on the ground. It's not related to reflective of what is actually happening in terms of our planning review. However, the school board has not identified any overcapacity related to this development, and they have gone through requests for additional funding related to other schools within the area, but not necessarily a new school related to this development.
Okay, that's interesting. I noticed in the reports it says, and there may be justification somewhere that I missed, but so the zoning would allow 50% lot coverage for a dwelling, and 53 including accessory, which is much higher than our current 35 and 38. What is the purpose of that?
So I believe that that's specifically for the single detached dwellings that are 1 story in height. And that's just to accommodate the fact that they are 1 story, so they'll just be a little bit more expansive. However, anything above 1 story, the lot coverage would be reduced. And Mr. Stanley, I believe you can clarify that, that question as well.
That's part of the approach that we've taken, that provide us a framework, and that's in the zoning bylaw, as to what could be built on the property. So if it's a single family, a single floor unit, a bungalow style home, usually you require a little bit larger footprint in order to build a home that's a comparable size what you're building next door. So rather than having all 2 stories, we're hoping that there will be builders in the community that will want to be able to build single floor, single family within the subdivision, not within like a vacant land condo development. So that's why we've asked for the increase. I know it's identified in other locations in the zoning bylaw that have been applied and been approved by council. So that was why we went through the process.
Thank you. I was just concerned that that's outside of our current zoning. So, I mean, it will increase the attractiveness perhaps, but in other ways it won't, because some people want larger amenity space. or lawns or whatever. The other thing I wondered about the apartment building, it doesn't specify how many floors. Okay, I think we were discussing at the last meeting. Yeah, but I think we were discussing 3 or 4, not 5. And this doesn't say one way or the other.
Proposal is for a 5-story apartment building. That's the maximum. As Brentham is not a house builder or an apartment builder, he will be selling the lots and blocks. So if we have a builder that has a different idea of what must be required, such as certain amenities within the building, we don't know exactly what the occupancy may be of the building. But at this point, the height is, the maximum height is 5-story.
Okay. And the final question I had, or clarification, the report suggests that there would be 20% of housing must be affordable. So what is your thought for affordable? Can you give me a dollar?
Well, I guess to say which market are we talking about at this point? So it comes and goes, and I guess at the time that looking at getting subdivision agreement, whatever, affordability, as an example, we just talked about, single floor home could be more affordable if it's a smaller unit. That's mine.
Well, I know I've disagreed with what is affordable and what is
Correct.
not.
But it's a
affordable.
target that you have in your official plan, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was reviewed as part of the update for the official plan. So it's a market value based upon what's established basically by the county across the county. So you can do what you want, but as long as builders are prepared to perhaps build and then rent units, that addresses the issue from a rental point of view, from affordability. Or if it's a different type of unit or smaller unit, then you have to look at, is that saleable? Is it long-term, can it do it? So there are affordability and housing at this point, marketplace around is it's an issue that has many, many sides.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comment.
Just a second here. Is there anyone else who wants to go and just cover off? Nope. Well, we'll circle back then. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll just let Brad take his comments and get on the floor too. Go ahead, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Marion. I see there's, like I said, 47 conditions. So there's a lot of homework to be done yet before any of this takes place. There was speaking about the apartment buildings. None of this would confirm any size on apartment buildings as far as rezoning goes at this time, would it?
Yes, there would be, there's only one site-specific zone for the apartment building, and it just lays the groundwork for the building envelope for that apartment building. So it would also be limited by the parking requirements and other standards of the zoning bylaw. So the maximum, as noted earlier by Mr. Stanley, would be 5 stories. It could be less, but it can't be more than that. And then in terms of the size and what it would look like, it would essentially need to conform to the building envelope requirements that are set aside in the zoning bylaw amendment.
Okay, thank you, Marianne. Madam Mayor, if I could, just want to put a couple comments in there too. Generally, this is always hard, I know, for communities when they have growth like this. I mean, our goal, I think, is to have, welcome new people to our communities. I know sometimes people don't like that, but I think it's important that we do that and that we plan for it. I think we need to do it responsibly and really think things out. And like I said, with the 47 conditions, I think that's helpful for us to be able to accomplish that. I would agree with Councillor Cates too, that, you know, we have to think about our grandchildren and our children moving forward, because a lot of them do want to live in a community. And so by providing a little bit more, you know, housing and opportunities along with townhouses, it gives them an opportunity to maybe buy into the market. Like I said, I know this is hard for every community, that people just don't want it in their backyards. But I think if we take an approach of being more welcoming and try to build a, you know, a stronger community, and hopefully we get some great people. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. I'll return to Councillor Cates now.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, just a couple of comments on the comments. Well said, Brad, Councillor Scott. I just want to note to you, Councillor Heffernan, there is a plot of land that says school on it in Kilworth Heights, but at this point, there's been nobody has stepped forward to say, hey, let's build a school. So just a side note there for you. And I'm very happy to hear the words smaller bungalow. I hope that can happen, because that would certainly fill some needs. Just a side note, I am a little bit of a stickler for 2-car side-by-side driveways, not front and back. So just, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I think you've hit all the high points. Obviously, we talked about the various demographics that we want to meet, different audiences for different kinds of housing. We did go through that lot coverage discussion behind the post office on Caver Hill. We had originally in the plan, there was the idea that people would want the 2-story houses. And I think we went to 2 or 3 before it became clear that there were a lot of 1-floors. That was about 5 years ago, I guess, something like that. So there are people who want to make, I think the argument was, we have kids, I want to see them playing in off the kitchen or whatever. And we had to go from this coverage to this coverage to accommodate a slightly larger footprint. So we've seen that before. Yeah, no lands have been identified by the school board, that we're at their beck and call on these kinds of things. So that's up to them. I think the conditions are all there to cover all that part of it. And the higher density and the variety of housing. We know we don't have stock that meets the needs of everyone. I don't think there's anything else. If that's it and there are no hands, we do have a motion before us, and that is that the official plan amendment number 45, OP 45, that is, for the land legally described as concession 3, part lot 4, in the former township of Lobo, municipality of Middlesex Centre, be adopted and forwarded to the county of Middlesex for consideration of approval. And that the zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 14, 2019 to rezone the subject property from the existing EU zone to the urban residential first density exception 44 withholds, as noted in the report recommendation, Parks and Recreation PR and open space exemption 8 zones for the property legally described as concession 3, part lot 4 in the former township of Lobo, municipality of Middlesex Centre be approved. And further, that the county of Middlesex be advised that Middlesex Centre recommends the draft plan approval of the land known legally as concession 3, part lot 4 in the former township of Lobo, municipality of Middlesex Centre, and the county file number 39T-MC 1902, subject to the draft plan and conditions appended to the Middlesex Centre report PLA 51/2022, and subject to a 3-year lapse period. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? I have Councillor Cates and Councillor Scott. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any hands. That motion is carried. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, reports, comments, and input. And we'll move now to the Committee of Adjustment. We have a motion before us that council adjourn its regular meeting at 10:39 a.m. in order to sit as a Committee of Adjustment under Section 45 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended to consider the minor variance applications listed on the September 7th, 2022 council agenda. Mover, please. Councillor Arts and Councillor Scott. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any hands. That is carried. So just before we get started, I have a little preamble. The members of the public that wish to receive further notification of any minor variance applications being considered today, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcenter.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. If you have any questions on the applications that are being heard today, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our RSO policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. So now the order of proceedings is the same for each application, and it is as follows. First of all, I'll ask the planner to explain the purpose of application and hearing and to present the staff report. Then the applicant or their agent has the opportunity to speak to the application. The public who have registered will be asked for their comments. Please state your name and address so that your comments can be part of the record. The municipal clerk will note additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in the planning report. The committee will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and or staff, and then I'll ask for motions to consider regarding the applications before us. So the first item up today is an application for minor variance, file number 815-2022, and Dan Fitzgerald is here to give an overview of the planning report. Where's yours, Dan?
Through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor and members of the committee, and hello to everyone in the public. Again, my name is Dan Fitzgerald. I'm a planner from Middlesex County, representing Middlesex Center on these minor variance files today. So application A15-2020 is an application for a minor variance, which seeks to increase the maximum permissible size for an accessory building on the subject lands. The applicant is requesting a maximum size of 34.5 square meters, which is 3.8% lot coverage, whereas the bylaw currently permits a maximum size of lesser of 50 square meters or 3% lot coverage. And 3% lot coverage in this case would be 27.2 square meters. The effect of this proposal is to permit the construction of one accessory building on the lands, which is intended to be used as a pool shed. The subject property is located on the south side of Parkview Drive, southwest of the intersection at Parkview and Valley View Drive in Kamoka. The lands are generally surrounded by residential development. It's designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and is also zoned urban residential first density, exception UR1-26 in the zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing to place a structure in the rear yard of the property, which is fully located behind the existing dwelling on the southwest interior and rear yard lot lines. It would meet the required interior and rear yard setbacks for the proposed development. Upon circulation of the application, the municipality received one response from a neighboring property owner, noting generally that they were objecting to the proposal as they did not consider the requested variance minor in nature. In view of the application against the test for a minor variance in the Planning Act, I am generally of the opinion that the proposed increased size is considered minor in nature, would meet the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and is considered an appropriate use of land, given that it's directly associated with the residential use of the property. Given the above, I am recommending that application A15-2022 be approved, subject to the condition that the accessory building be placed generally in the same location that is as depicted on the site plan, which was provided by the applicant. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, Dan. I've got to note that the applicant is not registered to speak and no members have requested to delegate. But I will look to the audience. Is anyone wanting to speak to this? I don't see any hands on that one. The clerk didn't receive any additional comments at all. So I'll look to the committee then. Are there questions? The planner or I don't see any hands. Okay, in that case, thank you for the presentations, Dan, again. And motion before us is that the minor variance application A number 15 2022, filed by Marcusi for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to permit a maximum overall size of 34.5 square meters or 3.8 lot coverage, percent lot coverage for all accessory buildings for a property municipally known as 144 Westward Crescent be granted, subject to the following conditions: that the accessory building be constructed in the same general location as in the applicant's site plan attached to the report, and that the reasons for granting the minor variance application A15/2022 are that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan and comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Shipley, and a seconder, Councillor Cates. Thank you. Is anyone opposed? And I don't see any hands. That motion is carried then. And moving on to number 8.2, again, Dan's file for another minor variance application. Go ahead.
Through the chair, the application for minor variance, which is A16/2022, is seeking to increase the maximum permissible size for an accessory building, while also requesting to decrease the required interior side yard setback for the structure, as well as the eve encroachment line to the proposed accessory building on the lands. In this case, the applicant is requesting a maximum size of 61.1 square meters, which is represented as 4% lot coverage, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum size of the lesser of 50 square meters or 3% lot coverage. In this case, that would be a maximum size of 46.4 square meters based on the 3% lot coverage. The applicant is also requesting to reduce the interior side yard setback from 1.5 meters to 0.76 meters or 2.5 feet, and also permit a further encroachment of the eave trough or soffit to 0.46 meters, whereas the bylaw currently permits an encroachment of up to 0.6 meters. The effect of the proposal is to permit the construction of one accessory building on the lands, which would be used as a pool shed and a covered outdoor seating area associated with the recreational use. The property is located on the west side of Earls Court Terrace at the intersection of Earls Court Terrace and Woodland Drive in Kilworth. The lands are generally surrounded by residential development in the format of single detached dwellings. It is designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and a zone urban residential first density exception UR1-22. The applicant is proposing to place the structure in the rear yard of the property, fully behind the dwelling on the north interior and rear yard lot lines. As proposed, it would meet the required rear yard setbacks in this case. However, they are requesting the reduction to the interior side yard. Upon circulation of the application, the municipality did not receive any comments from the public. I did receive comments from Middlesex Center's chief building official, who did note concerns with the proposed setbacks to the interior side yard. However, it was requested that a condition be included for the eaves troughs to be included along that interior side yard for the roof structure of the proposed accessory building, that the downspouts associated with the eaves troughs be directed internal to the site, basically keeping water off the neighboring property to the north. In review of the application against the Ford test for a minor variance of the Planning Act, I am in the applicant's proposed location for the structure. I am of the opinion that the proposed increase in size and reductions to the interior side yard setbacks is considered minor in nature, would meet the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is considered appropriate use of land, given that it is directly associated with the residential use of the property. So given the above, I am recommending application A16/2022 be approved, subject to the condition that the accessory building be placed in the same general location as depicted on the plan, and that the eaves troughs be required along the north interior side yard, and that they be directed into the site away from the neighbor's yard to the north. So thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you for that presentation then. The applicant is not registered to speak, and I have been made aware that there is a representative of the agent available should there be questions. No members of the public have requested to delegate, but I'll look to the audience to see if anyone wants to speak to this. No, not this one, okay. The clerk has not received additional comments, so I'll look to the committee. Are there any questions for Dan? No, okay, in that case, the motion before us is that the minor variance application A16 2022 filed by Scott Priandre on behalf of Sean Iber and Ines Campos, I'm probably messing up the names really badly, for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to permit an increase to the maximum permissible gross floor area and reduction to the minimum interior side yard setback of the building and soffit for a property known municipally as 67 Rose Court Terrace be granted, subject to the following conditions: that the accessory building be constructed in the same general location as shown in the applicant's site plan attached to the report, and that the eaves troughs and downspouts be required, and that all water be directed away from the neighboring property, fully to be contained on the owner's lands. And further that the reasons for granting the minor variance application A16 2022 include that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of the Middlesex Center's official planning and zoning bylaws. The request is minor in nature, and the request represents an appropriate development on the subject property. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Arts and Councillor Heffernan seconding. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any hands, and that is carried then. Okay, another minor variance application. Again, Dan, the floor is yours.
Through the chair, so this application for minor variance, which is A17 2022, is an application which is seeking to increase the maximum lot coverage for all structures on lands that are located at 23498 Highbury Avenue. The applicant is requesting a maximum permitted lot coverage for all structures on the lands at 21.4%, whereas the comprehensive zoning bylaw permits a maximum lot coverage of 20%. The parcel of land in this case is considered a legally non-complying undersized farm parcel, which does contain an existing single detached dwelling as well as an associated commercial use run by the owners of the lands. They are seeking to remove the existing dwelling on the site and rebuild a new house, which based on the design is larger than the required 20% maximum lot coverage. The property is located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Highbury Ave North and 14 Mile Road. The lands are generally surrounded by agricultural lands, which are used for crop production. It is designated agricultural in the county official plan, agricultural in Middlesex Center's official plan, and it is zoned agricultural A1 zone in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. Upon circulation of the application, the municipality did not receive any comments from the public, and no internal departments or external agencies have noted any objections to the requested variance. In review of the application, I would note that generally agricultural lots tend to be much larger than the applicants, and 20% lot coverage would be far more permissible for development on those lots compared to this case. However, in this case, the land is more considered a rural residential lot, with 20% coverage resulting in a restraint which is not typically encountered in agricultural areas. In review of the application against the floor test for the minor variance in the Planning Act, I am of the opinion that the proposed increase in size would be considered minor in nature, would meet the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and is considered an appropriate use of the subject parcel. So given the above, I am recommending that application A17 2022 be approved.
Okay, thank you, Dan. And we have Mr. Brett Bickle, who's the applicant, attending virtually to comment on the report.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, I got a little hung up there. Just basically wanted to make myself available for any questions. So Dan did a great job on his overview. I just wanted to be available.
Okay, thank you. I'll see if anything pops up then. We have no additional comments received by the clerk. Wonder, is there anyone here that wants to speak to that? No? Okay, so I'll look at the committee then. Any questions of the applicant or of Dan? I don't see any. The motion before us then is that the minor variance application A17, 2022, filed by Brett Bickle on behalf of Jamie Aldrich and Sarah Donaldson for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw to increase the maximum overall lot coverage to 21.4% for property municipally known as 23498 Highbury Ave North be granted. And the reasons for granting this include that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan and zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. A mover, please. Councillor Shipley and seconder, Councillor Heffernan. Is there anyone who's opposed? I don't see any, so that is granted then. Thank you very much. And now moving to 8.4. This is another minor variance. And again, Dan, if you'd like to give your report, please.
Through the chair, application A18 2022 is a minor variance application which seeks permission to increase the maximum permissible size as well as height for an accessory building that is proposed on the subject parcel. The applicant is requesting a maximum size of 167 square meters or 4.3% lot coverage, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum size of the lesser of 60 square meters or 3% lot coverage, which in this case would be a maximum size of 60 square meters based on the 3% lot, or sorry, based on the 60 square meter limitation. Additionally, the applicant is requesting a maximum height of 6.3 meters, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum height of 6 meters. The effect of the proposal is to permit the construction of one accessory building in the format of a detached garage, which is described by the applicant as being used solely for personal use and storage. The property is located on the south side of Egremont Drive, west of the intersection at Egremont and Pennec Road. It's bounded by residential development to the east and west, as well as agricultural lands to the north and south. It is located within the hamlet of Melrose. It's designated settlement area in the county official plan, hamlet in Middlesex Center's official plan, and zone hamlet residential first density exception HR1-1 zone in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing to place structure in the rear yard of the property, which is fully located behind the existing dwelling on the lands on the west interior lot line. It would meet the required interior and rear yard setbacks as part of the proposal. And upon a circulation of the application, the municipality nor I did receive any comments from the public, and no objections were received from internal or external agencies and stakeholders. In review of the application against the 4 tests for a minor variance in the Planning Act, I am of the opinion that the proposed increase in size is considered minor in nature, would meet the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is considered an appropriate use of land, given that it directly is associated with the residential use of the lands, and it's only intended to be for residential related accessory uses. So given the above, I am recommending application A18 2022 be approved, subject to the conditions that are outlined in the report.
Thank you, Dan. Again, the applicant is not registered to speak, and no members of the public request to delegate. Unless someone here would like to speak to it. Okay, thank you very much. There are no additional comments that have been received by the clerk. I'll look to the committee. Are there questions, Deputy Mayor?
Excuse me. Yeah, it's quite an increase in the size that's allowed, like almost 3 times. I'm just wondering, is it for storage of a specific vehicle or something? Or why is it so large?
The design actually it's basically a 3-car or 3-bay, 1 bay being oversized with the height for RV storage, as my parents do own a camper that they currently pay for off-site storage. The other 2 bays would allow for parking of my personal vehicle as well as landscape equipment, because I do have a large 1-acre lot. I do have a fairly large kind of tractor and available space for me to tinker. As I did go through renovation on the property in 2020, there was previously a 110 square meter building on the property when it was purchased. I found out after kind of through the finalization of the purchase, there was an existing work order that building did need to be demolished. It was in poor condition. So we did follow through with that work order and pay for the demolition of that building. But I did somewhat enter into purchasing that property expecting that size of a building to be available to me for storage. I do like to renovate and kind of build on the weekends. So I do want some space I can work. And I did realize through that process, dealing with the bylaw enforcement, the importance for the municipality of having things stored. It was very much noted to me that things need to be stored in sheds, you know, and things like that. So I want to just ensure that I'm building one building that's a cohesive design and incorporates potentially all of my future storage needs, as well as for those vehicles that are already kind of in the possession. As my parents enter retirement, start to downsize, I want to be able to support them as well.
Thank you. The only concern with these size of buildings are you have, you know, appropriate uses that in the future, if the property is sold, then the possibility of businesses starting to operate out of buildings that size. That's why I question the size of the building. Yep. But I appreciate your answer. Yep. Thank you.
I'm young. I just moved in. I want to stay.
Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing none, then we do have a motion before us that the minor variance application A18/2022 filed by Sandra Feenstra for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a maximum size of 167 square meters or 4.3% lot coverage for all accessory buildings and a maximum height of 6.3 meters for property municipally known as 6675 Egremont Drive be granted, subject to the following conditions: that the accessory building be located in the same general location as shown on the attached drawings, that the footprint of the accessory building shall not exceed the footprint of the single detached residence on the lands, and further, that the reasons for granting the minor variance application A18/2022 include that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Centre's official plan and zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and it represents appropriate development on the subject property. Do I have a mover, please? And Councillor Arts and Councillor Shipley, and anyone opposed? Okay, that is carried.
Thank you,
Good luck.
Council.
All right, moving now to another minor variance, which is again your file, Dan. Go ahead, please.
Through the chair, application A19/2022 is an application for minor variance, which is seeking to increase the maximum permissible size for an accessory building on the subject lands. The applicant is requesting a maximum size of 182 square meters or 4.5% lot coverage, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum size of the lesser of 110 square meters or 3% lot coverage, which in this case would max out at 110 square meters based on the size of the lands. The effect of the proposal is to permit the construction of one additional accessory building in the format of an enclosed outdoor pool, while also maintaining two existing accessory buildings on the land being used as a detached garage and a shed for personal use storage. The property is located on the north side of Longwoods Road, east of the intersection at Longwoods and Woodhall Road. The subject lands are located in an agricultural area surrounded by large rural residential lots. It is bounded by residential development on all sides and a mix of industrial and agricultural uses to the southwest. It's located within an agricultural area and generally is considered a legal non-complying lot as an undersized agricultural parcel used for residential purposes. It's designated agricultural in the county official plan, agricultural Middlesex Center's official plan, and zoned agricultural A1 zone in the zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing to place the structure in the rear yard of the property, fully behind the existing dwelling on it, as well as an existing accessory building that's located on the site. It would meet the required interior and rear yard setback requirements. Also, the placement of the building would be completely shielded from neighboring properties, given the existing mature tree line along both interior side yards in the rear. Upon circulation of the application, the municipality did not receive any comments from the public, and no objections were received from internal and external stakeholders. In review of the application against the 4 tests for a minor variance in the Planning Act, I am of the opinion that the proposed increase in size is considered minor in nature, would meet the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is considered an appropriate use of the lands. There are 2 recommended conditions that have been added, one of which would require the placement of the building generally as shown on the plan. And then the second being that the accessory building be only used for personal use and not for commercial uses. So given the above, I am recommending application A19 2022 be approved, subject to those conditions as outlined in the planning report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation then. I don't have anyone registered to speak as far as the applicant is concerned or the public. Unless someone here would like to make. Oh, you're here. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Oh, okay. Is it the applicant then or the owner? Is it applicant? Oh, both check marks. Okay, you're welcome. And there are no additional comments that were received by the clerk, so I'll look to the committee. Questions, clarifications? So no school would be allowed in the back in terms of classes?
Through the chair, no, that's correct.
Okay.
That was the initial concern that I did have, was that it could be used for commercial use. However, after discussing with the applicant, it's clear that it was solely for personal.
Okay, all righty. That's the only thing that occurred to me when I was reading. So, okay. Now, if there are no additional items to clarify, then we do have a motion before us that the minor variance application A18 2022 filed by Keela Malloy on behalf of Colt Rilhoff for relief of the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a maximum size of 182.27 square meters or 4.5% lot coverage for all accessory buildings for property municipally known as 9778 Longwoods Road be granted, subject to the following conditions: that the accessory building be located in the same general location as shown on the attached drawings, and that the accessory building shall be used only for personal use as permitted in the force and effect of both zoning bylaw, and further that the reasons for granting the minor variance application A19 2022 include the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan and zoning bylaw. It's minor in nature and it represents appropriate development on subject property. Do I have a mover, please? And a second. Councillor Scott, Councillor Cates. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is then carried. Thank you. Okay. And minor variance application A20 2022, Dan, floor is yours.
Through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor, and to members of the committee. So application A20 2022 is an application for minor variance, which is seeking to reduce the required interior side yard setbacks, which are required for a single detached dwelling on the subject lands. The applicant is requesting to reduce the minimum interior side yard setback to 1.8 meters, whereas the bylaw in the urban residential first density exception UR1-3 zone requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 3 meters on both sides. And the effect of the proposal would be to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling on the vacant parcel of land. So this current vacant parcel of land was previously created through an application for consent, that being B12 2021. Through that process, the lot received approval for a variance to the minimum frontage requirement in the bylaw, but did meet all other required aspects such as area, given the depth of this particular land. Also, through the consent application, an easement was established, which provides shared access to Kamoka Road for this parcel of land, as well as the abutting lands immediately to the south. This easement is represented as a 3 meter by 6 meter portion of lands, which is occupied on both sides of the property line. So in total, 6 by 6. Beyond the 6 meters in depth, each property owner then maintains their own parking area independently on their own lands. The property is located on the east side of Kamoka Road, on the northeast corner of the intersection at Kamoka Road and Simcoe Avenue. The lands are generally surrounded by residential development, with an industrial zone lot being located adjacent across Kamoka Road. It is designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and zone urban residential first density, exception UR 1-3 zone. The applicant has requested to reduce the interior side yard setbacks for the proposed dwelling on either side, generally based on the proposed design for the single detached dwelling on the subject lands as sought by the owner. Upon circulation of the application, I did not receive any comments prior to writing my report. However, I would note that subsequently to drafting the report, I did receive 3 comments yesterday objecting to the proposed minor variance. These objections have been forwarded to council in advance of the meeting by the clerk and will be included as part of the public record for this application. The objections generally related to the concern about the impact of a reduced interior side yard setback to the existing developments, as well as the development not meeting the existing character of the neighborhood. In review of the application against the 4 test for a minor variance of the Planning Act and the applicant's proposed location for the structure on the parcel, I am of the opinion that the proposed reductions to the interior side yard setbacks could be considered minor in nature, would meet the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is considered an appropriate use of land. So given the above, I am recommending application A20-2022 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have the applicant, Caitlin Crawley, in attendance on behalf of Zelinka Preamble.
Madam Mayor, this is Caitlin Crowley with Zelinka Preamble. I am the authorized agent on this file. I would just like to thank Dan Fitzgerald for his work on this. I have read the staff report and agree with staff's recommendation. I just wanted to make myself available to answer any technical questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have any members of the public delegated to speak on the request. There have been no additional comments that have been received by the clerk. I'll look to the committee then. Questions, comments? Councillor Cates, start off.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. I have a bunch. Dan did touch on it, but I just want to back up a little bit. This property just came to us it was one large property divided into 3. And at the time, to squeeze in this 55-foot wide lot, and it has a shared access off of the county road, I was not really in favor of, but I know that that's, that it met the criteria. And this is my neighboring property, sort of, I live behind, but this, what this has resulted in, the original severance has resulted in the existing house that neighbors right beside this lot only has from the end of their house over to the lot line is literally 10 feet. And that's also is their driveway. So I think that there's a lot of missing care and concern was given at the time of the properties severed into 3. And if you look closely at the location map and zoom in, there's a slight little bit of an error here, because what it's not showing is the garage. The L shape there that you see is the house, but there's actually is a garage in that front corner. So if you see the end of that house, the carport that was there had to be tear down to meet all of this, you can see that he literally is left with potentially, finding out if he can make a parking spot on his front lawn or right there beside, which is now going to leave him, if this was granted, with, when you look at the house, which finished square footage, including the basement, is about 6,000 square feet, a 6-bedroom plus an office. It's a huge house, and he's going to have a giant wall right beside his property at his driveway there. I mean, the 10 feet that's the normal 10 feet is close enough, let alone, but now to make it 5.9 feet. You know, I think that there's other options. I'm not at all begrudging the size of the house in the least. You know, maybe I think you need to go back to the drawing board a little bit here. Maybe you push the house a little bit further back. Maybe you make it a little bit narrower and further back to fit, you know, what you want to have in your house. I realize, you know, that some may think, oh, well, we're just asking for a little bit closer side yard setback. But I think that, which, you know, I say to people, people give their input against something or for something. I think that it's our job as council to then look at the nitty gritty, the individual situation here. And, you know, I am well aware of this situation and I want to make sure that you all are as well. That I don't agree with this and the end result. I mean, we've already got, in my opinion, a bad end result for the laneway, for the guy in the family in the existing house. And now I think we would just be adding to it. I think that that's what I've said. Or enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cates. Councillor Arch, you next.
Through your Madam Mayor to Dan, I was going to ask about the eavesdrops funneling the water away from the property lines, but after Sue's presentation too, but the house of 22,700, where, like she said, where are they going to park their vehicle? I think maybe the concept isn't so bad. It's maybe, like Sue said, it should be farther down the lot, because in the end, yeah, at 22,700, where do you put your car? That's a good point.
Go ahead, Dan.
Through the chair, if you don't mind, if I can respond to that. So what I would say is each individual property is responsible for their own access and parking requirements. And what I mean by that is specifically in the older areas of Kamoka, the interior side yard setbacks being at 3 meters is generally a direct result of the old houses not having attached garage being built on them originally. So what you get is a minimum 3 meter interior side yard setback, which allows for direct access beyond the house and into the back of the property, where you have the option of developing something like a detached garage. It's not uncommon to see that, especially in older areas. So what I would say in direct response to that is the individual has a 3 meter pathway to get them to the rear of their property where they can park their vehicles appropriately. So it's not on the applicant of the new lot to provide access for them to park their vehicles on their own lands. They need to be responsible for that on their own parcel. What we're really looking at here is what is the impact of this home as a result of the reduced to the interior side yard setback on that land and the surrounding neighborhood in general. So I think you need to remove the idea of this parking issue. That's an issue that needs to be dealt with the neighboring landowner. And it doesn't really impact the variance or consideration for the variance, in my opinion.
Through your Madam Mayor to Dan, thanks for that. That clears that up in my head. And the question about eavesdrops, are they supposed to be directed so that with that close to the lot line, so that it's funneling the water onto their property and not running into the neighbors? Or I know it's sand, but
yeah. So through the chair, with respect to new single detached developments, we'll always take into consideration lot grading and lot grading certificates at time of building permits. So no property is allowed to direct their downspouts on their neighboring parcel of land. And any type of stormwater influence has to be directed to wherever it is that it's designed to go. So in this case, roof leaders would have to go to the rear of the property and then to the front of the property. So it would be directed away from the neighboring property to the south in this case.
I'll go with Councillor. I'll follow up again. Go ahead, Councillor.
Mayor DeVete, to Dan, I totally agree with Councillor Kate. In the picture, the location picture, it shows, I'm guessing that's a garage on 22,700 behind the house. Ready? Oh, okay. Oh, it's gone. Okay, never mind. But I tend to agree. I think that while we can support infill lots, I think in this case, especially with the shared driveway, I think it's oversized and in the wrong location.
Right, so thank you through you, Madam Mayor. I just want to clarify that to Dan's point about the parking and the, yes, everybody has their own. What I'm partly saying is that, I feel that it was a little bit of a messed up situation in the beginning. But what I'm meaning is that he is going to drive in his laneway or be in his backyard and have this ginormous wall right there, as opposed to sadly over there. So I realize that each is responsible for their own parking. It's more so the giant 2-story wall, 5.9 feet off of the edge of their backyard there. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll look. Oh, sorry. Council Shipley, go ahead.
Was it 22700 requested the severance of this property in the first place?
Through the chair, so the owner of the new lot, as a result of the severance, has requested the variance.
Who did the severance initially for the?
Oh, sorry, the initial severance was owned, so the entire parcel was owned by one individual initially, who severed off the 2 parcels and the 1 remnant, which has now been sold to 3 separate property owners.
But it wasn't 22700 that owned them all.
That's
it was
correct.
Originally.
The
Before
individual
estate settlement. So that was one property, yes, 2227. But we did go through the process of the severances. And the lot immediately behind 227 is one house, and the other one is the other lot to the left.
So through the chair to Council Shipley, I think what you're meaning is, was that individual the person that severed off the?
Correct.
So no, it has been sold to a new individual.
Okay.
As a result of the severance.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Caitlin Crowley is on the line too. I'm wondering, do you have any comments or anything you'd like to add at this point?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Just to some of Sue's comments, we are willing to push the building back further if it is, if that would eliminate kind of the issue of the wall. So yes, we are willing to push the building back. The reason we had located it where it is to kind of be in line with the existing dwellings along Kamoka Road, but we are willing to push it back. I just wanted to add that comment.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to comment or on that? Okay, if there are no other questions or concerns or comments on this, so the clerk is just noting that if you wish to have additional time or whatever, you can push it back to staff and come back or outline any specific questions that you'd like addressed. And then it'll come back to us with the revised suggestion plan if that is what transpires. So do I see anyone wanting to refer this back to staff? Councillor, you would? So that's a motion.
Motion will specify the direction of the planner, what they're looking at, what is referred back. So specifically, what is it that needs to be addressed?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would like to defer this back to staff for them to take a closer look at positioning of the house further back, and hopefully provide some clearer drawings on the actual garage and, you know, show the impact of each side of the properties.
Is everyone clear on that? Okay, so now that you've heard the motion, if someone would second the motion, then we can call a vote. Councillor Shipley? So we do have a motion before us. All in favor, or anyone opposed? It's easier. I don't see any hands, so it comes back to planning, and we'll look forward to seeing that in front of us again, of course. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Caitlin. And we'll move now to, Councillor Cates.
Before we adjourn from the Committee of Adjustment, I just wanted to point something out that I'm not sure if I had noted. Number 8.1, it is, let me see what street it was on. It's actually on Parkview, but in the initial report, Dan's initial report, it notes that it's 144 Westbrook. So I just wanted to clarify that it's Parkview.
Oh. Yeah, right here.
Through the chair, thank you for that clarification. We'll make sure it's noted.
Okay, now with respect to that item, then we are done with we have to move into public meetings now. So we have a motion before us that the Committee of Adjustment adjourns at 11:26 and council resume its regular meeting at 11:26, and that council, so that we can move into the public meetings of the Planning Act 1990 is amended to consider applications listed on the September 7th, 2022 council agenda. Again, there's a preamble, basically, that if members of the public wish to receive any kind of notification on the applications that we're hearing today, I ask that you send an email to planning@middlesexcentre.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that those comments that are expressed in written material presented are all a matter of public record for full disclosure. If you have any questions on the applications that are being heard, we ask you to direct those to the appropriate planner on file. And again, members of the public who want to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide their comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our zone policy, I remind all that that they use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. The order proceeds the same as we had in the previous session. I asked the planner to explain the purpose and the application, to present the staff report. Then the applicant or their agent is able to speak to that application. The public who registered will be asked for comments. The committee can ask questions of the applicant or of staff, and then I will ask for motions regarding the application. The first item on the agenda today is the zoning bylaw amendment for 4847 Bells Road, filed by JP Briamontes on behalf of Jennifer and Connie Briamontes. And Marion is here to give the overview of the report. The floor is yours, Marion.
Great, thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to council. The municipality received a zoning bylaw amendment application for a temporary use zone for the lands known as 4847 Bells Road, located on the northwest corner of Bells Road and Westminster Drive. The purpose of my staff report is to provide a recommendation on the requested rezoning request for a temporary use zone to continue to permit the construction of a new single detached dwelling while living in the existing dwelling on the property. The temporary use would apply for a period of 3 years, and upon expiration of or completion of the new dwelling, the existing residence would need to be removed. The subject land is approximately 5 acres in area and currently contains a single detached dwelling that was built in the late 1800s, a pole barn, sheds, and detached garage. In addition, there is a single detached dwelling that is under construction, and you can see that in the location map in the top right corner. The lands are not actively farmed or used for agricultural uses. It has frontage on Bells Road and a single access there. The lands do have private servicing and are currently surrounded by agricultural land uses. So this application is a little different compared to other temporary use requests of a similar nature. Since the applicant has applied for a temporary use zone previously in 2013, 2016, and 2019 for the construction of the new single family dwelling. The applicant has advised that the dwelling that they are constructing is being done by themselves. And more recently, they've had delays with labor and with building materials during the pandemic, which has delayed their construction timeline. As such, they have requested a 3-year period to complete the construction of this dwelling. So the requested application is generally consistent with the policies of PPS, the county and local official plan as it relates to permitting a single family dwelling on agricultural lands. The application was circulated to area residents, agencies, and staff did not receive any correspondence from any area residents or agencies at the time of writing this report or leading up to the public meeting. Public Works and Engineering staff have requested that the applicant submit a total deposit of $10,000 and enter into an agreement with the municipality to ensure the removal of the existing residents promptly upon occupancy of the new residence. Staff will note that in 2019, the applicant did submit a deposit of $5,000 and entered into an agreement with the municipality at that time. As such, staff will seek to update that agreement and collect an additional $5,000. And finally, planning staff will note that the continued temporary use zone request is generally not supported by staff, especially over a significant amount of time, as generally a temporary use permission is intended to be either grandfathered out or recognized in perpetuity through amendment of the zoning bylaw. However, these circumstances are a little different and they seem reasonable, and the use that's being proposed does not create any conflict or any nuisance with any adjacent landowners or land uses. Therefore, staff can be in a position to support this request. So staff determined that the requested zoning bylaw amendment for a temporary zone for a period of up to 3 years is consistent, and all applicable policies, including the Middlesex Center official plan. As such, staff recommend that the application be approved and that the owner enter into an updated temporary use agreement with the municipality that would require the removal of the existing dwelling and submit a total deposit of $10,000 to the municipality. And thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. There are no members of the public who have requested to delegate, so I ask now, are there any members of the public in attendance virtually or in person who wish to comment? If you are here virtually, please use your raise hand feature, and if you're here, just raise your hand or take a seat. Okay. Okay. Floor is yours. Go ahead.
Yep, applicant for the, I guess, the renewal of this temporary bylaw. And it's as said, obviously, the last 2 years have been tremendously bad all the way around for many people, but we're doing it ourselves, and it was always going to be a long process, and that just made it longer. But we're looking for the next 3 years and get back on track now, slowly, individually, by ourselves. But it's a good process, and we're enjoying it. And we'll up the deposit to $10,000. We originally had the $5,000, and as per the zoning bylaw, it'll be one dwelling when its occupancy is granted, and the other one will be torn down immediately.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Okay, we don't have any, so the motion before us is that the zoning bylaw amendment applications at BA 09/2022 for a temporary use temporary use zone filed by JP Viramontes on behalf of Jennifer and Connie Viramontes to permit 2 single detached dwellings on one property for up to 3 years to allow a new residence to be constructed on the land known as 4847 Bells Road be approved, and that the owners be required to enter into a temporary use agreement with the municipality and submit a total deposit of $10,000 to ensure the removal of the existing residence. Do I have a mover, please? And a seconder. Councillor Scott and Councillor Shipley. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is the consent application for 15675 9 Mile Road. And Dan, the floor is yours.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you, and hello to members of council now. Before I get started, I'm going to share my screen so that everyone can see the map that's associated with this particular file. So with that, the application for consideration for council this morning is a consent application listed as B8 2022, which is seeking a minor boundary adjustment or a lot adjustment area to add an additional 800 square meters to their lot from an existing agricultural lot, which is located at, my apologies, at 15675 9 Mile Road. It is on the south side of 9 Mile Road and just west of the intersection at Clark Road and 9 Mile. So the original surplus residential lot, which is as zoned, was created through a surplus dwelling consent application, that being B19 2019. It is approximately 1.18 acres in area, and they're requesting to add the additional 800 square meters, which would bring the lot size to 1.3 acres in area. The remnant farmland would then be approximately 99.18 acres or 40.14 hectares, which technically is still compliant with the agricultural A1 zone. In this case, this lot being the agricultural A3 zone. So the applicant has provided a sketch of the proposal, as can be seen here. The yellow area that's shown on the location map is being proposed to transfer from the agricultural parcel of land to the surplus residential lands. And in discussion with the applicants and with the letter that was submitted and attached to the planning report, the reason for adding this particular portion of land to their lot is a direct result of development of a new home and the location of that home on the surplus residential lot being located at the rear of the property. So they have indicated that the existing dwelling, they are living in the existing dwelling while building a new dwelling on the lands. And they have noted that the only place to locate this new dwelling is to the rear of the existing dwelling, which is set back 10 meters from the rear property line. They have indicated in their application and in discussions that they have concerns with the farmer's field being located so close to the rear of their property at 10 meters, and are concerned that normal farming practice such as spraying will be occurring so close to the rear of their property. And this is why they're requesting to add this additional 800 square meters to their surplus residential lot from the existing farmland. So generally, I would note that the provincial policy statement, county official plan, and local official plan are very protective of farmlands and their economic viability, especially within Middlesex County. We do seek to limit the potential impact to farmlands, especially when it comes to surplus residential severances, as well as consideration for minor boundary adjustments. So the applicant's lands, I would say, are created through a consent to sever surplus dwelling as a result of a farm consolidation, which at the time were deemed to be a sufficient size to house the residential use and any associated services with that particular use. The county official plan and Middlesex Center's official plan only permit minor boundary adjustments when they are technically or legally justified. And it is my opinion that the applicant has not provided any technical or legal justification as to why this increase to surplus residential zoned lands is required. More so, I would say the increase is as a result of the development proposal on the property and not a technical justification for the increase in size. So I would also note that as a condition of the original severance, there was a severance agreement that was entered into between the landowners, which does transfer on title that informs anyone of this current owner or future tenants of the normal farm practices that are occurring in the area. So as such, prior to the purchasing of the lands, the applicant should have reasonably been aware of the agricultural opportunities and practices that are occurring in close proximity to them, as well as any future development proposals for the lands. And in review of the proposed new single detached dwelling, I am of the opinion that there is sufficient space that already exists on the property to locate a new dwelling farther from the rear lot line than as proposed on the site plan. Further, the applicant maintains the option of removing the existing dwelling and placing the home further forward on the lands, moving the proposed development away from the rear property line as desired. Also, the lands associated with the boundary adjustment are prime agricultural lands, which are utilized for crop production. As stated in the county and local official plans, minor boundary adjustments must not adversely affect agricultural activities. Since the proposed lands would result in a loss of prime agricultural lands that would affect agricultural activities, I am of the opinion that I cannot support the proposed consent. Given the above, I am recommending that the subject application be denied for the aforementioned reasons. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Dan. We have Gloria Costello, who is the applicant, in attendance virtually to comment on the report.
Hello there. It's Robert Costello speaking.
Good morning. The floor is yours if you'd like to make your comments.
Okay, yeah, Gloria was going to attend this meeting, but she had to go away for work. So I understand Dan's concerns, and we kind of reviewed this, but the house already exists, so we can't move the house. It's a foundation in the ground. The reason is more than just the setback as well as agriculture, but it's also the requirements from municipality for a raised septic bed that wasn't known to us at the time of designing the house. And what it's done is it's elevated the house up fairly high. So it has quite the slope now from the back rear to the rear property on a 10-meter drop. That's one of the concerns. I don't know if you have some of the pictures of the actual elevation of the backfilling on the foundation or not, but that along with that current farmland is basically gravel. If you look at the Google overshot, you could see where the original barn was that was torn down. And it's not very practical for the farmers to work that land anyways. They're constantly picking up rocks there, gravel, chunks of concrete. And, it's not very productive land, but I just like to add that and see if maybe you can reconsider your motion there. Thanks.
Thank you for that presentation. There are no other members of the public who decided to do the meeting, so I will look now to council. Are there questions of the proposal or of the proponent? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor, when we, just for clarification, when we vote, are we voting to deny that Dan says, or I want to make sure that I don't get confused when I vote?
Thank you for that question. And I think it is important that that be clarified. As the current recommendation as printed in your agenda package is to deny the application. So a vote in favor of the recommendation as printed in your package is a vote to deny the application. Therefore, in a moment, when the chair reads out the recommendation, when they read out the recommendation, which is to deny, should you vote in favor of that, it is a vote to deny the application. If you vote not in favor of the motion, it is a vote to potentially approve the application, but we would require an additional motion should that occur.
Okay, are there any questions on the content that we want to clarify? Go ahead, Councillor Heffernan.
The mayor, and I'm not sure if Dan can answer this or Mr. Costello, but on the one picture, on the one, let me see, what item was it? Application proposal. It shows cement walls. So does this mean that the house has already been started, or is this? I don't know what it is exactly.
Yeah, the house is already 50% built. That cement wall is the foundation of the new house. So, a proposal to move it forward or to the north is not possible at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I have a question for our planner. When I look at the diagram, the one with the map where the red lines outline the existing property and the yellows at the back, the red line is, it appears to be significantly to the left of the tree line. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
I'm not in agreement to expand the size of the lot. The only way I would consider this is if that arable land were brought back into the farmer's field, equivalent to the asked 800 feet at the back. If those two are reconcilable, then I would make a motion to refer this back to staff to take a look at other options. And if this motion doesn't pass, council wishes to deny the motion as presented, that's fine. But I'm just saying that the only case in which I'd consider that is to put the agricultural land back in production. So if I make the motion to refer it back to staff to take a look at that opportunity, if there's a seconder, I do that myself for 20, so else to make a motion. Oh, Dan's got an answer, I guess. This may be moot, right?
Through the chair, it's my understanding that the area to the left of the trees was where the original septic system was to the front, and now the new septic system is located to the rear. So they wouldn't be able to sever that, to amend that boundary to add back to the farmland, as that's where the new septic system is located.
Oh, the new septic is okay. All right, so it is moot. Disregard all of that commentary, and we'll move to. We have a motion before us.
Now, sorry, it's Robert Costello again. Now, on the east side of the property, there may be an opportunity to move that line in. I'd have to measure that and see if it will actually have to impact the trees on that side, and obviously have to remove some trees, which is not in keeping with municipality, but is that a possibility?
Well, those trees are yours to begin with, right?
Yeah, all those trees.
I mean, the farmer can remove them for.
No, those
In
trees.
any case, if there's a conversation to be had, I mean, we don't need to have it today. That's not my intention here. But I'm just saying that when I looked at that picture there, that would be the way that I would shuffle that, if that is something that could be a swap or legal. But anyways, I'll leave it up to council to decide whether they want this to go forward or just nip it in the bud, as it were. Is there a seconder or no? To push it back to staff. I was making the motion. If I can make the motion to refer it back to staff to consider all their alternatives. But if it's not.
Through the chair, you are able to make a motion and obtain a seconder. However, our staff member just commented a moment ago, and I believe in summary of their comments, what's being suggested is not possible. So yes, you have the option to make a motion to refer something back to staff, and that would require a seconder. However, I believe what staff is suggesting is that what you refer back to them at this stage is simply not possible.
On that side, the comment that came back.
Through the chair, Dan, I'd like to call on you if you provide some context. Thanks.
Yes, through the chair, council certainly can refer it back to staff to have a further look at if there is an opportunity to basically create a wash between the requested to add in and the requested to remove. So to amend both boundaries of lands. Certainly we can do that. We can look at that with the applicants. I would suggest want to maybe ask the applicant if they're interested in that and have them confirm that. And then we can bring a recommendation back to council if you would prefer. I'm more so thinking on the east side of the property than the west.
Through the chair, if you'd like to make that motion, obtain a seconder, we'll work on having the applicant come back to comment to that in the meantime. We are currently working on bringing them back online. Can move to that individual now.
Sorry, Mr. Costello?
Unmute. There you go. Sorry. Just took
Oh.
a clicks to get the unmute to work there.
So
Yes,
The
definitely.
question that we'd like to ask is, if in the event that council refers this back to staff, are you interested in having a conversation? If you're saying, fine, no, we're done, then we don't need a motion. But if you suggest that you might have something to discuss with staff, then we could make the motion and call the vote on that.
Yes, definitely 100%. I'm interested in looking at other avenues if possible.
Thank you. So the motion is to refer this back to staff for further discussion. And Councillor Cates, and I'll call the vote then. Is everyone in favor of, anyone opposed to referring this back to staff? Seeing no hands, then we'll see this before us at some point in the future. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us. Okay, moving on now to rising from public meetings. We have a motion before us that public meetings adjourn at 11:51 p.m. AM, pardon me, and that council resumes the regular meeting at that time. So mover, please. Councillor Cates and Councillor Shipley. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, then we can go into our regular council meeting. Okay, we'll do that. Oh, that's right. We're almost there. So we don't have any notices of motion. We have 6 correspondence items. Is there anything on that list of items that someone wishes to speak to? Or yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Through Madam Mayor, just like to point out that our mayor is now on the board of Biome, which is quite an achievement, and we thank her for stepping up and going on the board. I think that makes us front and center and some insight into what's going on in AMO and some of the things that are happening. So I'd just like to point that out, that our mayor is on that board now, and we appreciate her stepping up and letting her name stand for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I enjoy it, and it's very interesting. So actually, any thoughts or comments or ideas on items of interest to our municipal residents and others in the province, feel free to pass them on. So moving on to county council update, I'll turn it back over to our Deputy Mayor. We did have a meeting since last time we met.
Thank you. Find the right page. We did have a meeting on August the 30th. As I just mentioned, Mayor DeVete is now on the AMO board, so that is certainly a plus for us. The county through fiber incorporated telecommunications agreement with access to the county road allowance at Dem Center. So that is it was passed. Ferno Pack was a sole tender for equipment monitors for a time of 4 to 6 months. A truck purchase, again, very difficult to get these trucks, and it's a 3/4 ton diesel. The only one there's only one company that is available for that. Middlesex London paramedic operations update. We're seeing a 6.7% increase in calls, over 17,000 hours of offload delays so far this year, really impacting the availability of ambulances both in the county and the city. We have 48 people that have came to us through immigration partnerships into the Middlesex County. So there are people that have stepped forward, and we have some people from Ukraine within the county, and so that is an ongoing process. High-speed internet, $4 billion has been provided, and the hope is that by 2025, everybody within the county will have minimum service to high-speed internet. There are some decentralization projects for the county operations in progress. Post-election committees and boards will be dealt with after October 28th. And those are the major operations of county council.
Okay, thank you for the highlights then. And I neglected to call a vote to receive the correspondence. The motion is that Council for Municipality Middlesex Centre receives the correspondence items 12.1 through 12.6 as information. I've got Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Arts. Any opposed? Being none, thank you very much. Now we have to go into closed session. So we need a motion for that. And that is that the Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourn to closed session at 11:56 pursuant to section 239(2) of Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters. Under section 2.b, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Under section 2c, a proposed or pending acquisition of or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Under section E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And under section F, advice that is subject to solicitor's client privilege, including communications for that purpose. So if we could have a mover to go into closed and seconder, Councillor Scott and Councillor Cates, thank you. We'll have to wait now. Oh, sorry, I didn't call the vote on that. Is anyone opposed? None are opposed. Okay. Yes, I think we should have a quick recess. So it's been a while. Get a beverage. 9:30, 10:30. What is it now? Yeah. Yeah.